Come on, I believe in you. Maybe. Come on. There we go. I do believe. Let's double check this now. In theory, this is going to work this time. Let's see. Booyah. Awesome. Let me mute this, and I'll monitor that through here. Cool. So hello. Hi, everyone. It's been a long time. And it's Sunday, and I figured let's like, what better way to spend a weekend than having fun? And what's more fun than pop punk music? So I figured in this, I would show like how to like how I make pop punk music and like how to make pop punk music specifically in Reason. Some tricks on like recording yourself, recording stuff like that. For this genre specifically. Some mixing stuff. How I use my UAD plugins in my UAD interface to make it happen and make it fairly easy. This does not have vocals in it, thank God. I do have some others that do have vocals in it. I don't want to break those down right now. I did just get new speakers, and this is actually the first thing that I've written on them, so I'm really excited about it. I guess let's start with I'll just play from the top, and yeah. So, to give you an idea of what I did here, my Quick Drums new preset that I just grab always. It's Superior Drummer. It's the Easy X Metal Kit with a couple things changed around. I think I like muted the toms, made them a little bit tighter. Let's see here on this snare. I typically recently I've been bumping that 100 hertz thing. There, and then in terms of mixing with Superior Drummer specifically, I literally just have it going into the Native Instruments 1176 slow attack, fast release for extra punch and stuff like that. And then I have the wet dry mix about 50-50 because I don't want to just completely crush the heck out of it. Or I guess I should say I have the dry mixed in. I forgot, it's one of these ones. I have the dry mixed in at minus 18 dB. That way you're not getting a completely overly crushed sound. Then all this stuff down here. Oh well, I'm cutting some 3K and boosting the super top end to give it that kind of modern sheen that a lot of modern drums have right now. And then the Serum effects in the sweeper, I toggle those on and off for a specific effect. It's like a little flanching effect that happens, and I print them actually both times. You can hear it right here. So I print them that way I don't have to do the automation on and off the whole time. And plus I think I've got OTT on there within Serum effects. So whenever that flips on, there's a little click or pop, and we don't want that. So yeah, let's talk about programming drums, because programming drums is kind of fun. So, kick and snare. I'm bad about kick and snare, and I typically do 127. That's what we're going to be. And I don't typically do a lot of ghost notes when I'm running stuff. I was trying something a little bit different with this one and tried to add some other ones in. So the ghost notes, those are down at like 25. My snares are at 127. I think that for Superior Drummer, at least, Superior Drummer, the kick and the snare specifically, it gives you that really extra crack when you've cranked up the velocity. The kick I'll play around with a little bit more. You can see I've got some at 100. A lot of the major hits are going to be more at 127 though, just to give it that extra punch. Some of the other drum libraries out there, like Get Good or the new Mixwave, which sounds really cool. Those ones you don't have to crank the velocity as much. You can kind of use those like higher over 100 velocities for like the extra impact. I feel that with Superior Drummer and specifically this Metal EZX kit, you kind of need that 127 to give it that extra slap that's needed there. I did try to kind of make this so when I'm writing drums for something like this, I try and pretend I'm a drummer to make it sound as natural as possible. So I'm not hitting 17 cymbals all at the same time because that's a physical impossibility. On the cymbal side of things, I've got a crash, a china, and a splash. So I literally just made a little pattern up there. So the drummer is going like boom ka 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 boom, something like that. So really trying to think of how to do it like a drummer to make it sound more realistic. And another thing for the extra realism, flams. I manually do a lot of flamming on stuff. For like fills and stuff like that. So in this case, I've got a snare hit and then less than a 32nd note, less than a 64th note. It's probably like 128th and some change. I've got a rim shot there. So it's like the drummer took both sticks, hit the drum at the same time with both sticks and flammed it a little bit. This part, what am I doing here? Yeah, so these right here, this is like the pedal. So the pedal hat there. Verse drums are kind of fun. Lots of pedal going on. Just kind of riding back and forth between the two floor toms. And then the kick drum is just kind of going. A little bit of a double kick going on there. But I think I did more of that. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll put a low velocity kick drum underneath a tom hit just to give it a little bit more emphasis and a little bit more like punch to it. Hi-hat stuff, definitely vary your velocities on the hi-hat. I probably could stand to do it a lot more. If I just mute this right here. It's pretty machine gunny. I could have definitely stood to vary them a little bit more. But the idea behind that is that like the drummer isn't going to hit it the same way twice. So like it'll be hard, and then on the offbeat it'll be a little bit softer, and then harder, and then a little softer, a little harder, a little softer, back and forth like that, to give it a bit of extra realism. That's one of those things that like with making music inside of a computer like this, and using virtual instruments, you've got to make it. You have to make it so that it sounds real. Versus like I feel like at work, like I'm an audio engineer by day. If I'm recording a band or something, and I'm recording real acoustic instruments, I do everything I can to make it sound less like real people and make it sound more, more tight to the grid. I shouldn't say less like real people, but like make it more, lock everything to the grid, make everything quantized, tune everything really, really nicely, which we will get into a little bit of that here with some stuff. Let's see here. Cliche stuff. Obviously, the reverse crash swell cymbal going into stuff. Let's talk about guitar, or let's talk about bass guitar first. So that is a real bass. This is actually the first track that I've used a real bass on. I've got a Yamaha 5-string bass over here. Um, a lot of times, I've got a preset called rocking bass. That is a contact instrument. And it's a pretty aggressive mid-heavy bass sound. It's the Scarabee, I think. Yeah, the Scarabee Bass Pre. Um, I've used it a lot, but for this one, like, it didn't feel very authentic with it. Yeah, I don't know. It was too robotic. It was too inhuman. So I decided to record an actual bass for it. And actually, I used all the same. Originally, I had all the same presets from my Rockin' Bass one, and I just copied it down to this audio track. And I didn't like it, so I just bypassed everything. On the verse bass, though, where I'm kind of where it's just kind of rolling like that. I do have a little bit of distortion and a little bit of low end coming in there, just to have him kind of distinguish. So you can hear right here during these transitions, which I should definitely add a little fades on. By the way, so this is a bit more mid heavy here during the verses, with a little bit less low end and a little less high end. Um, I'm doing that just to make the verses a bit smaller and a bit more controlled. That way, um, when it opens up into a larger section, there's a bit more impact. There's a bit more frequencies going on with everything. I'm doing that with the drums as well. I'm using the filters on the built-in on the track itself, going through the verse as well as like the pre-chorus, where I've raised the high pass a little bit and I've lowered the low pass a little bit, just to get rid of some of those like really really wide frequencies out there and just bring them in. And then once the chorus hits, comes back out and is a little bit larger than life. You could also do some fun things like collapsing the stereo image. Actually, that would probably be really fun to do on this track. Now that I think about it. But yeah, let's see here. UAD stuff. That's right. I was going to talk about that. Console. So if you're not familiar with a UAD console, I'm using it right now for this and just for my voiceover mic, and I've got it going through what is this, the API Vision console. So I have a gate and EQ and compressor and stuff like that. But anyways, we're going to talk about bass stuff first. I'm using the Ampeg SVT. I just found a preset that I liked, and went from there. Yeah, it worked. I thought I found a preset. Maybe I just opened it up and left it as is. The presets in here are pretty good. I like them a lot. Sadly, with OBS running, I can't like plug in and like show you and like really go through some of them. But yeah, that is my bass tone. Is through this. This is primarily all the bass tone, which their Ampeg emulations are actually really good. I like them a lot. And use them both here as well as at work when I grab a DI bass from a band. Guitar world. Let's talk about guitars. So guitars. For this, I used my, what is it? Fender Telecaster HH Special. With Seymour Duncan's in it, so it's got two humbuckers, because rock music typically calls for humbuckers, in my opinion. At least something that's got some distortion to it. And I kind of varied it up a little bit because I recorded all the guitars for this once, and then I was like, I don't like the tone. And I redid all of them because I'll just grab it. Hold on. Because with this, there is a coil tap on it where I can pull that out and it goes down to a single coil. I don't know the exact configuration of this. But what I did for these intro guitars, I used the coil tap. It kind of thins out the sound a little bit for you, and it sounds like this. I've also telephone effected and added a whole bunch of effects, but that's besides the point. So it's thinner versus having something that's a little bit larger. There's a bit more of the frequency range. Basically, this is an easy way to make a sound smaller. um, to have the larger sound larger. That's something that like really enjoy about music. Probably explains Which probably explains why I enjoy dubstep and stuff like that, because it's intensity and release. It's the tension in the release of the song, where things get smaller and bigger, and the energy is flowing up and down, up and down, up and down. It's dynamic, even though we tend to just smash everything as hard as we can with limiters nowadays, because wall of sound and louder better. Um, but playing with things like the frequency response, and the stereo width can do some really cool stuff to help like to help make your song more dynamic while still keeping it loud and forward for your listeners. So compositionally, a lot of power chords going on in this. Um, I mean, I just try to think of like the most generic. I would say more modern pop punk, not necessarily not necessarily like the late '90s, early to mid 2000s pop punk. I was definitely trying to go for something a little bit more modern sounding with this. At least with this riff, um, I could definitely make the argument that this is just straight up at a like I don't know 2002. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. So I quantized all these because I wanted these to be super, super tight. Um, and the tone for this, I used what was it? The Diesel, I believe, right? The VH4, yes. Which I like this channel 3. I turned the first so I recorded these I recorded all the chorus stuff with a bit more gain, and then the verses. I just backed down the gain. I think it was at like maybe 9 or 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock ish, and I backed it down to noon just to thin it out a little bit. Once again, just working with that overall frequency spectrum, moving it in and out. On the guitars specifically, let's look. What do I have going on here? I didn't label anything in this session. I labeled like 3 things. So these are all going out bus 1. Bus 1, what do I got going on here? I've got a high pass at about 100 hertz. I'm dipping 2K. A lot of times that like 3K area, or sometimes 4K, depending on the guitar and the guitarist, can be very, very bitey with the pick attack. I've got CLA stereo, or yeah, the CLA 76 stereo one, because this is going on a bus. Um, I've got a slower attack and fast release. Um, and I've got Soothe. I don't think I've ever talked about Soothe before. If you know Soothe, you know that it's freaking awesome. It's great on guitars. I do have the mode in left right and have the link at 0%, because these are two individual mono tracks that are getting summed to stereo. I want this to look at each of them individually. I don't want it um, to reduce harsh frequencies on both of them simultaneously, or the same simultaneously. I want them to look at the left channel and the right channel individually, because these are two individual guitar tracks. Um, and then another EQ, just doing a little bit of ringer stuff that I didn't like that, and that got a little harsh there, so I pulled those out. And this reverb is not doing anything at all until the very, very end. On the last hit of the song, I wanted it to fade out into a little bit of reverb, so I automated it, the wet dry, to go up from 0 to 100. Just because I kind of liked it kind of flowing out into space there. The reverb, though, that is happening on these, if I solo it out, you can hear that there is reverb going on, and that is actually going on through the Reason SSL mixer. I've just got it out one, and I've got the reverb on the actual mixer itself. Where are my hotkeys? What am I looking for? That one. There we go. Let's go up to the top, flip it around, and you can see we've got this guy right here. I'm actually going to turn off I'm going to make that small. So yeah, I've got it going FX1, then it's going back in. One thing I did do, though, is I flip-flopped my left and my right. So my left channel is going to the right input, and the right channel is going into the left input. So it's flip flopping them. Reason for that is that I want the right guitar, I want that reverb to throw to the other side, and then vice versa on that one. It can create a bit more width for you overall. And this reverb, I just turned it all the way down and kind of left everything else the same, besides turning up the wet dry mix. I know I've talked about the Synapse deep reverb a bazillion times. I love this reverb. I think it sounds good. It's just a great sounding plate reverb, and I'm a big fan of plate reverbs. Um, let's see here. The bridge of the song, I went for just an exact Blink 182 ripoff without any shame. So compositionally, I did this by first writing out the chord progression. So the majority of this song, what am I using? I'm using let's see, 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 1, 3 minor, 4 major, 5 major, and then a 6 minor. And every now and again, I'm using a 7 as well. If you're familiar with like the Nashville number system, I believe that I've kind of picked up on that from work a little bit. Um, so like the majority of this song, like for example, if we look at the verse, I'll actually just solo out. I'll solo out the bass and the drums, because then you'll be able to kind of hear what's going on. So we're starting on the 1, going down to the 3, then 4, then 1, 5. So knowing that I was going to be using pretty much only those chords throughout the entire song, I wanted to introduce a new element besides the clean guitar, so a little bit of a piano, a very very reverby piano at that. So I wanted this to be a bit more spacey, because it's the bridge. I wanted to switch it up a little bit, but I first just wrote out the chord progression. So I believe it's starting with let's see here. It is 3 minor, 4 major, 1. And then 3 or 1 and then 5, but it's an inversion of 5, so that the fifth of the 5. So let me see here, math. So it'd be A. So it's A major, but the fifth, that's an E. I have the fifth in the bass. So it's just a slightly different inversion of what would be if you just use like triads. And actually, for the most part, with when I do piano and when I do a lot of chord stuff, I typically just start with a triad of some sort. So you can see like right here, I've got a, what is this? This is the minor. So this is a G flat minor, and then I've just got the root and the fifth in the bass. So I'm leaving that middle third out. That way it that way the bass frequencies of it don't get too cloudy. Because if you're down here, you have you have two notes that are really, really close together, it gets muddy and mucky really, 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 really quickly. Versus up here, yeah, they don't sound great because that's a minor second, but it is a little bit. You've got a bit more space where you can actually where the frequencies aren't clashing in the same way. It's not taking up as much room with sonically. So once I came up with this chord progression, I did some guitar work on it. I think it was just a lot of bar chords. I'm actually really proud of how I played that. That sounds way better than what I thought it did. I was a little nervous to play that. And then bass stuff. I've got the bass just doing roots and fifths for this first part. and 1/3 in there. And on the bass part, I'm starting up a bit higher, and then I'm dropping back down to a lower octave for the second half of this bridge. So it's just building. It just adds a little bit of extra, a bit of like energy flowing forward throughout the song. And then lastly for this bridge, I've got just some palm muted guitars that come in here at the end. So yeah, and then that builds up into the last chorus. Obviously, right here it gets really really small again, kind of like basically like a re-intro type of thing. And actually, now that I look at this, you know what? No, I don't want to do that. I was thinking I wanna collapse this stereo thing a little bit more. Right now, the way I have things routed, it won't totally work the way I want it to because I do have these going through the same bus. Um, I could just automate the pan on those, I guess. Like, let's see here. Yeah, let's just do this then. Let's bring them in from because right now they are hard left and right, I think. Let's bring them like 50-50. So -50, bink. And then we're gonna put you on +50. There we go. Yes, now it's just a little bit tighter in the middle. And actually, on all these drum things, I want to collapse the stereo image a little bit on these. So, like, which one are you? Here, that one. We'll bring you down 50%. So 64. There we go. And we'll do the same on this one because why not? Because we can. We have this technology. Yeah, so we're collapsing the stereo image just a bit. Yeah. Trying to think. Let's see. Oh, there's a little synth line that I added in here. Adding like synths in guitar music can be a little bit tricky, especially when you're working with like bright sawtooth waves, because the guitars only really go up to like 6-7K, even distorted ones. So like once you get a sawtooth wave in there and you have all those extra harmonics that are way above it, sometimes it can sound really out of place. I've got another song I don't really want to show you yet. Maybe I could. That might be fun to do at some point. That's guitar-based music, but with a lot of synth stuff in it. I was really trying to, for that one, I was trying to like combine like post-hardcore with EDM, because I figured like there's a lot of pop punk EDM hip hop stuff going on, and I was like, okay, well, in the pop punk world, I feel like the natural progression to that was like the mall screamo stuff and the post hardcore scene. So I was like, yeah, that's let's try mashing that up then. And I'll show you that at some point. I think maybe probably not on this stream though. But yeah, like what I did was I added a little low pass filter to it, just to like tame some of those super high frequencies. Actually, I think I like where that sits there. But yeah, just added that over the top of the chorus, just to give it a little bit of like extra something going on there. Let's see what else to talk about. The bass looks really weird because it's half stereo and half mono. Reason being was that I recorded it and the intonation on that bass isn't the best. I need to get set up, and I ended up I was hoping that I could have just tuned it. I think if you looked at my signal chain on it, you'll see there's a Neptune on there, but that didn't do it right. Even with low frequency mode, it was just adding too many artifacts. I tried using the pitch edit mode within reason. That didn't work very well, so I ended up actually going to Melodyne and doing it within there. If you've never used Melodyne, it is incredible. I think that it's the most transparent of all the tuning softwares, and I think it's the most powerful by a long shot. It does not do that like auto tune robotic T pain type of thing well. It's very very manual. Like this is not auto tune. This is very very much manual tune. But it has um, some insanely powerful options for you to adjust pitch and formants, and you can do amplitude, you can do timing. The stretching algorithm within Melodyne is incredible. Um, within the pitch editing stuff, like you've got a few different options. You've got pitch tool, you've got pitch modulation, you've got pitch drift. Pitch tool, that's just moving the blob up or down. Um, Pitch modulation, that is going to be how much of the wavering there's going to be in there. So if you want T pain, you go all the way down with it. Um, and then lastly is pitch drift, which I think is the most powerful and most transparent tool you can use, because it maintains we'll say a singer's modulation, their slight vibrato. But if they like started a little bit flat over the course of over the course of a note, and then they kind of ramped up to where it's hitting the center of the actual note, it will take that ramp and flatten it out for you while still maintaining their modulation. And it sounds super transparent. I think I should probably do something on Melodyne at some point. And sadly, I'm still on Melodyne 4 when there is 5, which 5 is awesome, by the way. So yeah, I think that's going to do it. We can talk about mastering, I guess. Which if you have my template, you know a lot of it. Um, there it is. So I've kept my template for the past few years. I love this. I love this template. I've been adding a few more things, especially now that I have an Apollo and I've got access to the UAD plugins. Um, so you know all this stuff up to the ozone maximizer. That's all the same as my standard template. I do add the UAD VMS3. This thing is like a little it's like a little saturator, and I loaded up the preset mid-side master. Just adds some harmonic texture to it overall. Makes it a little bit brighter overall. I ended up actually dropping the drive and the level on these crushers a little bit more. You can make this thing like smash something though. It's not something that I typically use a lot of. But yeah, I dropped those a little bit there. Um, that's the same. I dropped some of the high end. I thought I was adding a little too much back in there. Precision maximizer. This thing's cool. I usually blend like 60, 70% on both the shape as well as the mix. This is basically going to add extra loudness. If you have like Sonics plugins, for example, you could use the Oxford Inflator. That's another great sounding one, and it's like perceived loudness. It's going to push stuff forward. I think this is kind of like a parallel compression thing, where anything that's super loud, it's not going to do a lot to, but any of the quiet stuff, it's going to help bring up and keep it a bit more pushed forward. And then lastly, obviously just the maximizer standard in my template. I think I may have turned up or down the input gain a little bit. Everything else I kind of kept the same though. Um, but yeah, when I'm making, let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to go over. For me, when I record guitars or basses, I typically just record directly through my UAD or my UA Apollo, and have it commit the what am I looking for? This. There we go. And I have it commit um, the actual effects that I have on there, just because of a few reasons. So if I was working inside of Pro Tools, I would probably do a DI, and then I would also print with this. Because Pro Tools is better when it comes to like grouping audio files and being able to, or grouping audio tracks to be able to edit them simultaneously. There might be a way in Reason. I don't believe there is. If there is, please let me know. Because I think that would be a wonderful addition to Reason. That way I could like, open up warp mode on both of these and then like kind of mess with them together. Obviously, yeah, you can do that, but just want to be able to grab one like I can in Pro Tools and be able to move them. Because in that case, I would take the DI and then I would have the actual the we'll call it the amped signal. Um, and I would edit the DI because you'd be able to see all the various transients and see all the and just see the actual guitar in more detail, note for note. So edit, so so you kind of like edit looking at that, but listening to the amp signal. It makes it you can make stuff super super tight. I think that's I believe that's very very common practice, and it should be common practice if you want to get like that super modern, super tight sound, like the new Spirit Box record, which if you haven't listened to it, it sounds amazing. Um, and it's almost like it's like pop music but metal. And yeah, I listened to it the other day while I was mowing the lawn and was pretty stoked on it. Um, yeah, I typically record the just the amped thing itself. Because a lot of times I'm doing so much stuff with like side chaining and stuff like that on the majority of my music that I don't turn delay compensation on typically. Which I'm gonna I'm sorry, reasonistas. I'm calling you out a little bit with this. This doesn't react correctly with delay compensation, and it drives me up a freaking wall. I love this plugin. It is in my template. It's on every single track that I do. But if I actually use it, I can't keep delay compensation on if I have some third party plugins or some third party VSTs because it starts compensating and then it compensates incorrectly and it drives me up a wall. And sometimes I end up like just moving things around in the timeline to make up for it. Uh, but yeah, if it gets fixed, that would be wonderful. In theory, Reason eventually is going to add in VST3. I think they said in January, which would be really really cool. Because then I'll probably get like what is it, like either LFO tool or volume shaper or something like that. So I don't know if either of those work in Reason very well. But if I can keep delay compensation on and have it work properly, I'll probably go with that. Um, but yeah, besides that, that's how I make pop punk music in Reason. I've gone over how I do vocals in the past. I'll probably do another one eventually on what I do with vocals, but this track doesn't have any vocals. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this kind of spur of the moment Sunday stream. I'm gonna go make myself some food, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend, a good week, and hope you feel good and feel groovy.